Hi everybody, my name is Dora Kurimay. I'm an author, performance coach, and former professional table tennis player in New York. You are listening to the Game Sat Match podcast. Have you ever wondered how the greats of any industry are always able to perform at a high level even under pressure? What is their secret? In this episode of Game Sat Match, I interview my friend Boyd Melson, retired American World Military Champion boxer and catalyzer of hope. We will talk about what he is the proudest of in his career, his life lessons, what helped him to become successful, advice for the youth, and mind wellness and recovery drinks. Hi Boyd.
Hi Dora, thank you for having me here.
Thank you for being here.
It's been a long time coming, right?
Yes.
I've had these health issues, which I still have a little bit here today with my allergies and this puffiness. But we got to do it, so we're doing it.
Yes, no, that's so great, and I'm glad to hear that you're healthy.
Thank you, dear.
And we can make this happen.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to just give a little introduction about you. You're a boxer. You are a world champion.
Amateur world champion.
Okay, amateur world champion boxer.
I was the world military boxing champion in 2004, when I was the first American in 12 years to do that at that time. And I was honored to be named the USA Boxer of the Month. It's the only time in my amateur career that happened. And then the United States Olympic Committee Athlete of the Month runner-up behind Bodie Miller, who is an Olympic gold skier. He doesn't know that he's on my hit list for getting number one instead of me that month. And as a professional, I earned the WBC Junior Middleweight USNBC. It's a lot of letters, right? USNBC Championship.
Awesome. No, that's so great. And I also know you are a motivational speaker, a mentor, an inspirational leader, and you're also very positive, right?
I am positive. That word leader, that's always a tough one for me because I don't know what that's probably the word that has more definitions than any other word, and who's to say what's right. My one that I've come up with is it's more of an action. It's a verb for a definition for leader, but not leadership. That's a verb itself. But leadership is what happens when you care about something enough. That's my definition for it.
It's a great definition. I love that.
Thank you.
Just to give others a little background, we met recently, right? The sport philanthropy event.
Yes, we did.
In New York.
Yes, we
did.
And
it was a pleasure to talk to you.
Same with you.
And also realized you have a background in psychology as well. So
thank you, as do you.
Yes, exactly.
And that's another thing we connected on, and I read your whole thesis. Yes, I did.
Oh, yes, you did. So
yes, I did.
And you're writing your thesis.
Well, I'm waiting for my thesis director to send me back my most recent revision of my IRB application. He's been sitting on it for a week right now. He played high school football. His name is Dr. Rich McNally, and he's one of our nation's leading researchers on social disorders and such as anxiety, like people get when they have to speak. And he played high school football. He's at Harvard. He plays high school football. He didn't play football at Harvard. That's where I'm at school for this. So I refer to him as coach instead of director. I said, tell me what I have to do now. I love being coach, and I love that I think he gets a kick out of calling Coach Rich.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, we will also talk about a little bit later about that. But
I have a real funny story about him if you want. So he told me when I took his course, emotional regulation and something motivation, whatever, 2 summers ago, and he said he told the class, he once got a phone call from someone saying that they were Steven Spielberg's executive assistant, and they were given his name, and that they were looking for a phobia expert.
Oh, wow.
And they said, we're thinking about making this movie called The Lost World. It's going to be the sequel to Jurassic Park, and we need a phobia expert, and we were told you. And being the true academic he is, he said, oh, I'm not the best phobia expert there is, but I could tell you who to go speak to. He then said when he went home and told his wife that, he got in so much trouble. Said if Steven Spielberg's team calls you, you better be whatever they are asking for so you can get into that circle. So that was a funny story about him.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, it has a lot.
I could tell by how much you laughed. You thought I was just...
No, that's great. So, tell me more about, because also, I mean, you have done so many things, but what you are the most proud of?
I believe I'm most proud of not giving up on my promise to find a cure for spinal cord injuries. That has to be it. I made that promise in 2004, so we're at 20 years now. And there's only so much I can do, but I haven't given up. And I do believe certain seeds were planted. Well, I have a really cool opportunity coming up regard to that promise. I met somebody who's at their agency company, and they said they have a dear friend. Her name is Nan, and she lives in Colorado, and she has the financial means, and her mission is to cure spinal cord injuries, but she doesn't know where to go or start. And that happened because her friend, who is a NASCAR driver, who still is driving as a quadriplegic, I think it was 14 years ago, got into an accident and became quadriplegic. And then that became her mission. So I have this opportunity coming, I believe it's next week, to speak to her over Zoom. And if I can find the right words to say and the right energy to put out, there is a future very soon where she will want to help fund the clinical trial that I donated all my purses towards, using umbilical cord blood cells, mononucleocytes to be specific, and injecting them intraspinally. Intra means into, right above and below where the lesion is. But so it's amazing that opportunities arise from seeds you planted long time ago, often, that you had no idea were there. But if you stay consistent in your life's theme the whole way, you're going to run into the same circles about people who care about the same things you do. And some of those seeds just take more time to be watered before they're going to eventually sprout and blossom. And I believe that this is going to be one. What I know is, if there's a human that cares about it like I do, and said that that's their mission, and they have the money to put towards their trial, I can get them to believe.
No, that's beautiful. No, it's so impressive. And could you tell me more about the donation? Because I think that who are listening not going to know your story. So tell me more about how did you get involved in this, and
Sure.
what happened.
Thank you for asking. This story was featured on HBO Real Sports in 2013, April of 2013, and I once fell in love with somebody who's quadriplegic. I met her at a dance club. I've told this story so many times. We fell in love after a year of being in love. I promised her I'd never give up on helping her walk again, and so I took her to China. This is while I was serving after I graduated West Point, and now I'm serving in the Army's World-Class Athlete Program, where your mission is to make the Olympic team. It's a specialized unit out of Fort Carson in Colorado Springs. And during that time, I took her to China for a stem cell procedure. We had olfactory and sheathing glial cells surgically implanted into her spinal cord. And then the second time we went, we had a combination of those with fetal neuronal stem cells surgically implanted. This is early 2000s. Nobody really knows about stem cells, and you have to leave your country and fly across the world for hope. And then I took her to Jordan once, and I took her to Mexico, and those two ones we were shammed for what we paid a lot of money for each time. What was most amazing when we were in China was that, well, two parts. First, the doctor's doors are right next to your patient's doors, and they have beds in their doors, in their rooms. So imagine in America, your leave is you just get to go knock on the door and start asking questions, and they'll answer all the questions and do it kindly, and you're never bothering them. So I was able to expedite my understanding of stem cell research by asking the questions to the people that are doing it in clinic, that in the US, because nobody's doing it, not getting any answers. Second, it was almost like a United Nations there. Every other room where we were in this ward was somebody from a different country with a different type of condition. So the different country part, not condition part, is the UN part. So you had people with, one room would be ALS, one room would be MS, So ALS is Lou Gehrig's disease, a sclerosis, and then you had multiple sclerosis, and there would be cerebral palsy, and there'd be Alzheimer's, it's spinal cord injury. It's the whole mecca of neurological conditions, and we're all from different countries, so nobody spoke each other's language. And every day would be like one or two people would go and have the procedure. And since you don't speak their language, well, the language of hope is what you do have. So you'd like come in the room the next day and be like, please tell me you're getting better, because if you're getting better, then maybe we're going to get better, even though it's a different condition. But we don't speak the same language. And at the same time, I'm thinking, why do I have to travel so far from home to have a procedure that to try to walk? That's like an inalienable right. Walking, we're meant, what's a bipedal, whatever the term is, we're meant to be walking. So when you take my human ability away to walk, that's a human right to be able to physically walk. I'm not going to go on that whole thing because my energy is going to start rising even more. So it's just the frustration. But as you see, spinal cord injuries come a long way since then. The research here in the U.S. especially, but we're still not there. It's still too many phase 1 clinical trials, not moving on to 2 or 3, and you need the funding, and 1 is just to determine if it's safe or not. So they're showing it's safe, but still not getting to phase 2. And every company is just trying to use one type of modality, but that's not gonna, as I shared, it's gonna be a synergistic approach, but it's like millions of more dollars per every new type of variable you add into the clinical trial. And a new variable could be, well, I'm gonna give you a pharmaceutical with the cells, but then I'm gonna also implant electrodes with the pharmaceutical with the cells. All of those, because then you need a group that has just one, then a group that has all 2 but not 1, and then a group that has all 3, and it's millions of dollars each.
Okay.
Answered your question.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. No, but that's it's a fascinating story, and when I heard about it, it was very heartwarming what you did and what you're doing. So
I'm doing it, but she's the one having to live, and everyone paralyzed is the one having to live, keeping hope up. I get to keep hope up, but I can walk while I'm keeping my hope up. Imagine having to keep the hope up after 20 years and you've been in the chair for 20 years.
Yeah, no, it's very, very tough, and we have to be grateful what we have.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me about, how did you get in boxing and what boxing means for you?
So at West Point, it's a mandatory gym course your freshman year called a plebe year. Plebe is from plebeian, I guess that's old Greece, Roman. Plebes are the bottom of the rung, so when you're a freshman at West Point, you're at the bottom of the rung. And it's a mandatory gym course. You have to take phys ed course. They don't use the word gym. Department of Physical Education, DPE. And you have to pass it to graduate. So passing it just means, when I was going through, you had 16 lessons teaching you all the basic punches and basic defense. And now that I understand boxing a lot more, that part still could be improved some. But it's good for that level to start, because if you try to teach it at a higher level when you're first learning, you're not gonna, the person's gonna go right over their head. And then you have 4 graded bouts at the end of the semester, half semester, and they're 2 1-minute rounds, 4 rounds. And they will pass you as long as you fight back. You'll get a D, but they'll pass you, because the purpose is, and they always state this, and now I'm like the older person reciting it. When I was younger, I heard the older person say, within 6 months of graduation, you could find yourself in a combat environment at 22 years old, in charge of soldiers, making decisions for their lives. Well, 9/11 happened while I was a cadet, so that happened to a lot of my classmates. The thing that they're preparing you for this plebe boxing, to know, as long as you don't stop, there's hope. As long as you don't stop, but you have to fight back. I don't care how sloppy it looks. Fighting back versus not fighting back, when you get to that point, is always better. If you don't fight back, hope goes. Now, you also have to know, being in that ring long enough teaches you when it is appropriate to make the decision to fight back. Because sometimes you're fighting back when that's not and they're luring you on in or something like that. So there's so many analogies with between what happens in the ring with what's happening in a combat environment, or even in life when it's time to start pushing back or not.
But I also know that you did really well that fight.
But I did well, and then I signed up for intramural basketball, I grew up in New York, and I'm starting to get the Brooklyn accent, ball. I grew up in Brooklyn, and I signed up for basketball for intramurals, and the upperclassmen, which is what they like to do, because they knew I did well in freshman plea boxing, scratched my name off the list and put it on the intramural boxing team. And I was very unhappy about this because I want to play basketball. Clearly, you could see I'm not built for the sport, but I love it. It's what I do.
I don't know why you're saying that.
I grew up for it. I grew up as my love 90s Knicks. What was interesting, some of my childhood Knicks heroes became my friends as adults, my buddies as adults. One became one of my best friends, Anthony Mason. So I was doing intramurals, and I just kept knocking everybody out. And so West Point is it's interesting dynamic with intramurals because close to 100% of cadets played varsity sports in high school. Maybe half of them were team captains, and a lot of them were in contact sports, but they weren't successful enough in high school to play at the D1 level. So they're coming to show they still got it. And then also the warrior ethos, and the school is a brigade. That's a military term, so that's the corps of cadets. It's around 40. It's any time between 4,000 and 4,400 because there's a high attrition rate, and it's broken down into 4 regiments, and each regiment 1,000 to 1,100 cadets, and each regiment is 8 companies. These are all military terms. It's for structure, and so you're company versus company, and sometimes physical fights would break out in ultimate frisbee, if that's one of the sports they fight. It's a lot of, because everything is to prepare the mindset to be in a combat environment after, so the competition is there. So they're showing that they still got it. They're like, remember in gym class in high school, I was one of these kids. There was always those kids that tried really hard, and everyone else was like, dude, why are you trying so hard? It's just gym. Like, screw you. I'm trying hard because I'm playing and it's fun. Well, that's everybody that goes to West Point is that gym class hero that comes in lunchtime hero.
It's a very athletic environment.
And competitive.
And competitive.
So I started knocking everybody out. And then we won the intramural championships. And it's challenging to stand out as a freshman, a plebe at West Point. It's designed that way. They want the homogeny of everyone together and you being on the bottom together. So I started being known as this crazy plebe that was knocking people out. And then they had an annual tournament to see who the best in the school was. And the captain of the boxing, and I was nervous. I thought collegiate boxing went on to the Olympics. I didn't know it was club. It's not NCAA. And I didn't put it in my head to think about the world champions at that time, and that they probably didn't go the college route. They went from they went high school, Olympics to professional boxing. So I was nervous. And the boxing team competed, the intercollegiate team competed, and the captain of the team was in my weight class. And he was mean. He was a haze. I was told that morning, he told in his cadet company, which are about 30 of my classmates, told them, come up to the Brigade Open tonight so you can watch me whip your plebe classmate's ass. So I knocked him out in the 3rd round in front of about a quarter of the school, and I received emails that night from my classmates I never met offering to buy me pizza that were in his company because they were so happy. Turned out I concussed him and he couldn't compete at regionals the next week, so that ended his boxing career in college. I'm sure it humbled him, and it was something he needed from what I heard about him and learned. And it's funny, now when I remember his style, he never had a chance against the way my style. It's just I was all natural abilities, and I really didn't have any fundamentals, but I ate them up. And then I joined. They asked me to come out on the team the next year. Then again, the hesitation. But then I like to put myself out and compete. I don't get angry when I lose. I get angry with myself if I'm going to get angry. How am I going to blame somebody else because of something I wasn't able to do? And I joined the team, and then my first year, it was a club sport, about 30 to 40, and I earned the intercollegiate championship my first year on the team.
No, that's
and then I qualified, and then thank you very much. And that was my boxing in college.
Okay. So tell me about what mental strength techniques did you use in that match and also throughout your career? So what psychological skills helped you throughout your career?
Well, they developed because I didn't have any to help me when I first got in there. I didn't even know what I didn't know. What I started to learn was that the nervousness, that feeling, the nervous birds flapping in my brain were really an illusion, because they're flapping about things that are not happening right now. And they're all about the what ifs. And I think maybe it's different in boxing because there is physical pain, but from talking to a bunch of my friends over the years and on the U.S. national team with me, I'm about to burp. Excuse me. It's the fear of losing, not the fear of getting beat up. It's the fear of losing for most people. And I still remember in that championship match, I was so nervous when we went to the center of the ring that it was hard to lift my glove up to touch him. It was like all the pins in the, I couldn't, this whole psychosomatic effect was happening. And I never experienced that. And then that would happen before every fight for some years. And what I started to, so I used my prefrontal cortex, and I got my rational brain. I know, I know when the fight actually begins, they all go away. The moment so why am I putting myself through this right now if I know it goes away? So then I learned this more as a professional. It's what am I going to do with that energy I'm feeling now? I can allow it to turn into nervous birds and get the whole heart rate going and not want to talk and get like that. Or I could use that and put it into focus for what I can positively affect right now. Positively. And how do I keep myself present then so my mind doesn't start racing in the nervous birds? And I learned if I'm talking, it's impossible for me to think about anything while I'm talking. So I would start repeating to myself the one or two things under my breath I need to make sure I do when the round starts. And the moment the bird started flapping, I went into that mode, and it would be always lead hand up, step to the right. I'm southpaw. So as soon as they started, I would go lead hand up, step to the right, lead hand up. I just walk around, lead hand up, step to the right, lead hand up. I can't think of something else. And if somebody asked me a question, like my coach or whatever, I would answer and say, cool, and then go right back to it. I would repeat that all the way until the bell rang in the first round. And it stopped me from thinking about anything else that would negatively affect my mood and positively affect my anxiety. So positively affect anxiety means raise the anxiety. It's the word positive, but that means it goes up.
Exactly.
Yeah. If they hear that, they're going to think, oh, that means it goes down. Yeah.
Yeah, there is negative anxiety and positive anxiety, which is helping you. So it sounds like you created a mantra to yourself, right? Or you were just focusing on what you want, and that's what you were repeating.
What I want, and the mantra would be say it out loud. And I've been able to use that to help try to offer tools to people who are trapped in their pain and trying to find a way out. Say out loud your thoughts, whatever it is. If it's good stuff, if it's trauma, it's whatever. Just say it out loud so you could hear it, and it stops you from repeating sentences inside your own brain that confirm how you're feeling at that moment, but how you're feeling may not be real. It's just the nervous birds flapping. So I say it. I talk to myself all the time. Whenever I catch my mind starting to say sentences that I don't want, that are negative, or going down that route, I'll just start talking to myself. Sometimes I'm like, what are you saying? I'll say it out just when I'm sitting on the couch. What are you saying? And it'll make me start to giggle. Like, that shit's not true. Like, and it brings some comedy, but even while I'm saying it, it makes me feel better. You know that's not true. If I'm really angry, and I'm angry, and if you let it ruminate with that anger, I'll go somewhere in a room by myself. I'll say the most nasty things out loud about what I want to do to this organization or this person or this whatever, and I'll really overindulge. And after a while, I'll start giggling at myself. Like, I'm not going to do any of that stuff. What would I sound like, Mike Myers? You know, and it helps me. that's what you do when you have a therapist with you. You say it. I'll do it for myself because I can always hear me.
No, that's wonderful. And what a great thing also you said, like these skills can be developed, right? So what helped you to come up with this method? Did someone help you, or you just did it intuitively? You developed these skills.
Thank you for asking. I spend a lot of time reflecting, a lot. I pay more attention to people I've hurt than what I've earned, because especially when it's people, they're alive and I care about them, and I've lived long enough to know that they resurface back in your life, and how you made them feel is what they're going to remember. So by focusing on what I can do to improve myself, I kind of organically realized as my mouth moves, I can't think about anything else. Just saying it, just talking, they say self-talk, self-talk, self-talk. Well, self-talking about the good stuff I want to do, I noticed by paying attention, metacognition, thinking about how you think, I realize I'm not nervous while I'm talking. And then I go, why am I not? Because the thoughts that are making me nervous I'm not able to think about. I'm only thinking what I'm talking. I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just talking.
I also know you like talking, so that was
that's like a passive aggressive. No, I know I'm teasing you.
But that's the thing. That's the reason also, because you are verbalizing all your thoughts. Many people are not doing that, right? They are just in their head. So
I agree.
Talk it out. That's a very, very great method.
And what's
skills to have.
Thank you. And what I have a lot, like if I have people that I've routinely come back to that we may have had a fallout at some time, and when I've recontacted them, I have taken on their perspective and spent the time in there to articulate how something may have affected them, whether I'm right or wrong. They're seeing that they're there and saying, I understand, and that was not my intention. And even if my energy was raised while I was speaking and it sounded abrasive, it was not my intention, and I understand why it could come off that way, and I understand how that could be perceived as disrespectful, and that was not, and because it was not, I apologize that how I communicated made you feel that way, and I don't need to communicate that way with you next time to get my message out, and I want you to know I'm aware of that. Stuff like that's an example of an apology that I've given to people, and it's pretty, because it's really objective when I'm doing. It's not what we spoke about, maybe so much. It was how I communicated.
How you make other people feel. That's the most important thing. Yeah. Beautiful. And who are your role models? If you would have to...
Daddies that behave as daddies. Fathers that behave as fathers. When I look at... I don't have babies yet of my own. And watching parents parent their children while because I know what the whole world is still, the professional world is there. So I know how challenging that is at the same time. And then to have the frame of mind to have to turn that switch off and be mommy or be wife or be husband. I can't be mommy or wife, but to be husband.
Well,
shush up. Be mommy or daddy or husband when you come home, and then having to switch that and do it every day, and then rising, showing up for your children no matter what your day showed, what brought to you. Those are models all the time. So like I have a lot of my friends, when they, sorry boy, I couldn't be there, I had, and I always say, hold up. I say, you're a daddy. I get it. That's it. You got lives that are going to be our age one day, that are going to be the future of this world. You have to train them and love them. That's where, and I totally get that. And I don't really think too many people use their children as an excuse. It's real. Whether you use them as an excuse or not, especially if they're young, you have to. I know what life's like. I was a child once. We need our parents. They're asking you. It's not an excuse. Oh, I need to go hang out with my kid. No, yeah, you do. You do need to go hang out with your kid. I get it. So those are examples. When I think of Muhammad Ali, I think of imagining you are at the peak, and then you believe in something. There's no one on the planet that's where you are. That's of all the billions of humans. And you have the world there in your hands. And you're handsome, you're in shape, you're world champion, you have plenty of money, and you believe in something so much that you let all that go. Just the idea of believing and giving up. That example, and it happens to be Muhammad Ali, it could be another human. And outside of what he did in the ring, that's why he's my favorite human to look at that I know. And Gandhi. I think what I guess you're going to find is people who are willing to suffer tremendously and dramatically for what they believe in when they don't have to. But they believe in something enough.
Okay, thank you. No, these are very good examples. I would like to know that what are your main life lessons that shaped your life?
If I learned these between all my experiences, and I'll say, taking life one punch at a time. And where did that come from? Well, my cousin Javon, who was in the Marines, told me that once when I was at West Point, being overwhelmed, and I'm the captain of the team my senior year, and you're getting 4 hours of sleep, and then you have 5:30 a.m. practice every day before the 20 credit hour day, and then practice again at 4:30, and I'd wake up at 5 and I'd hit at 4:45 and hit snooze. Before I know it, it's 6, and I'm the captain of the team and I'm missing the morning practice. I was like, Jay, I don't know what to, and I'm a nuclear engineer minor with a psych major, and I said, Jay, I don't know what to do. He said, take it one punch at a time. And then it made me think of when my daddy, when I was younger, I asked him, Dad, I still love Bruce Lee. So I said, Daddy, do you think Bruce Lee could beat 10 people at once? And he'd say, yeah, I think so. And I said, do you think he'd beat 100? And he'd go, yeah, I think so. And now being a kid, I jumped from 100 to 1,000,000. Right? I said, do you think he could beat 1,000,000? And but this is a big lesson Pops told me. He said, and my nickname was Popsy from him. And he said, well, Popsy, you have to remember, not all million can get to him at once. I didn't understand what that meant so much at that age. And then to put that into my lesson now, all those punches are out there waiting. They are out there. What I'm saying doesn't mean they're not out there. But they all can't hit you in the mouth at once, or the body. They can't. So it's almost always, because it's always now, so in this very moment, the one that's closest to you toward affecting your life is the one that you focus on in that moment. And you're not always taking the punch. Sometimes you're catching it or slipping. And sometimes you're punching that mamma jamma back. And to remember, you know, when I'm in a fight, when I fought multiple rounds, the way I feel in the first round when the punches are coming are not the same way I feel by the 8th or 9th or 10th. I'm different when that time comes. I've also learned more about the opponent during that time. I may be more fatigued, or I may be getting my second wind. Depends how well I trained before that moment came. What we do is we allow this spiral to happen, thinking that all these punches out there waiting to hit us, when we approach each one, we're going to feel the way we feel this very moment. And I can't, there's too many coming, there's too many coming. It's one at a time. You take it. Sometimes you eat it, sometimes you slip it, sometimes you're giving it. Remembering you're not going to be the same person once you get to the next punch the next week. Life's going to have happened around you. You may have had some joy from your children or your mother that reinvigorated you. Invigorated, innervates nerves, reinvigorated you. Isn't it funny when you say a wrong word and you remember while you're talking, like, shit, that's not right? So, reinvigorated you. So you're different. It's a different you. The only you that's for certain is who you are right now. And even as you're saying the word now, it's not now. It's a funky word because it's dynamic life. It's always moving. The fluidity. So that's one of them. Take it a punch at a time. Understand if right now there are 20 different punches lined up for this week, have confidence that once Saturday comes or Friday, if it meant staying up all night one night, cool, I'll sleep at the end of the week. I can do it. If it meant I have to get these workouts in, but then I have to take my kids to school, one at a time. Just what it is. When Friday comes, you'll have knocked out all of them. Don't think about everything. You're going to exhaust yourself and start getting scared, and then the nervous birds are going to start flapping. So that's a big one. I'd say that one. Be better for a moment. Did you hear that track that I sent? Did I send that to you? So a lot of times we get overwhelmed, I believe, by a moment, by a challenge. And we look at the challenge and we assess ourselves. And if you know you're going up against somebody who, let's say you're in a debate contest, and you know that person went to this school, these schools growing up, captained their debate team, blah, blah, blah. And it's your first one or it's your second one. And in your mind, you think, I have to beat somebody that has this and this and this experience and this and this and this and this. How can I honestly do that? Well, all that is true. But right now, it's just this moment, how they are, and this moment, how you are. So you don't need to be better than them overall, because you can't compete with that if you've never done all the stuff that had happened. But you can be better for this moment. And anybody can be better for a moment. And you wait for the next moment to come and to say, now I'm going to be better for this moment. You may still fall short, but you won't allow your mind to beat you before it begins because you're being overwhelmed by everything they have done up to this moment. That's cool. But that's not you now. You now is you here, me here, let's go. And then I got another, I got to have a whole, say it out loud that I told you. And wash your dishes. What are dishes? The dishes are the people in your life that have helped you achieve whatever you want. You know, your dreams are your food. They're your meal. They nourish your soul. And your dishes are what help you eat off them, meaning they supported you while you were getting them.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Now, what's not beautiful is when you put that dish in the sink and you just let it rot and rot.
You have
and
to wash it.
Yep. Try eating off it again without cleaning it. That's a big one. And if, at a minimum, put it in the dishwasher and allow something else to try to clean it. Show an effort. But if you can make the time to wash it yourself, which could just mean a call, dude, you're the best for what you did. Thank you for helping me and loving me. You don't have time to talk cool. I just wanted to say that. Wash them. Wash that spouse that supported you so that you could live your dreams to take care. You could do what you wanted, maybe professionally, so they could help with the kids or vice versa, or both, just supporting. Wash them. And when you don't wash dishes, your life's dishes, you're laying landmines. And at any moment, you step on that sucker. You didn't even realize they were dirty because you were so stuck in you and your eyeball from here of everyone's in your universe. You don't think that they also have all their own individual universes. Wash that dish. The landmine doesn't go off. And last one I'll say with what I think is collecting your letters. And that goes off of, well, we're at A. We have a C we want to get to. So we think from our experiences and what we've learned, this is the B, how to get there. And then a lot of times we lock into that B, and that's the only way. It's like this myopic focus, and that could be good to get there. But what you jeopardize at that time is other opportunities offered to you that may not be a way immediately to get to that C, but tangentially, they are in alignment with your life's theme for what you care about. So, take that opportunity and collect that letter and put it in your pocket. And I've lived long enough to know when I have some other type of C that I want, hold up, I got that letter, here's my B, because I met this person, created a feeling amongst them while I interacted and did whatever it was they were working on and helped with. And now I have my way to get to my C, my new next goal. So collect your letters the best you can, as long as those options are in alignment with your life's theme and purpose, because you're going to fall back on them anyway.
No, these are amazing advices. So.
Thank you.
So what are your what are your advices for the youth based on your life experience? I know you mentioned a couple of these life lessons, and do you have any advice for the young ones?
I just spoke at a school yesterday, 10th grade AP class, and this is what I shared with them, and this is what I share with children a lot. It's challenging in school, especially because you're locked into that ecosystem every day, and that's your city, that's your community. You're judged, you're judged, you're judged, you're judged, you're judged, you're judged, and you can't escape it. It's horrible. At least as an adult, you just leave. And right when we get embarrassed, it's when we're by ourselves, we're maybe not embarrassed, especially when we're younger, but it's when you're the people you're in front of, and if you can't just leave the room like us adults can, so that all of a sudden nobody knows you anymore, so you're not embarrassed, it makes it that much more traumatic. So what I don't think that that's ever going to stop when you're stuck in the same ecosystem. So then how do you mediate that or moderate that effect? I tell children, and this is hard because you have to have a strong mind, because that doesn't mean the abuse may stop. The people who think about you as they're falling asleep at night are the people whose opinions you should hold most strong. Because if they're not thinking about you when they're not around you, especially as their last thoughts, they're not as important in your life. But that's so much easier as an adult to grasp and to live, because I don't have to go back into school where I may be getting bullied or maybe whatever at the same time. I don't have to, and I'm aware of this. And I didn't understand this when I was a child, and I wonder if I could have done it, if I could have lived that way when I was a child. Somehow you have to grab that concept and really believe it. And remember at the same time, if your friends do not recognize or value your worth, find new friends.
Great advice.
The end. Not the end of this podcast, the end of that.
Oh, no, this is great advice. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm just curious to know, your nickname is Rainmaker, right? Why did you get that nickname?
Have you ever heard of the movie The Power of One?
Yes, I heard about it.
It takes place in South Africa, and Kristen, who's my ex-girlfriend, who's featured in HBO Real Sports with me, I showed it to her once. I watched it when I was a little boy. Stephen Dorff and Morgan Freeman both star, and there's some other actors. And so it takes place in South Africa during World War II, and I think it's into when the Holocaust had started already. And PK is the little boy's name. He's raised amongst the Afrikaans people, but then around people that speak Igbo. And I know they had the Khoi and the San that live in South Africa. And I don't remember if those were the people. I keep burping because I had some carbonated stuff before. So then he ends up having, his family dies, everyone keeps dying around him, and then he has a grandpa who has a friend who's a teacher who is more fit to raise him as a boy, but then that man gets put in prison because he's Dutch, and the Germans put him in. And when he's in there, everybody in there is black, African black. And it's just the grandfather and little PK, and then little PK, because of his upbringing, could speak all of the languages of all the different tribes. And then he's getting beat up at school, and they bring him to Morgan Freeman, who's the boxing coach in prison. And his name is Huel Pete, and he teaches him how to box, and then he ends up winning competitions of inter-prison and all that. And then they fast forward to when he's in his teenage years, and you show him teaching them how to read and trying to settle disputes between the clans and speaking the languages. And then at some point when they start walking by him, every time they walk by him, they start humming and singing this song that I get chills even when I hear it. I go to Spotify to listen to it because it helps me believe in whatever I want to believe in. Believe in something more. And he asked his grandfather, his grandfather's friend one time, they keep singing this song. What does this word mean that they keep saying? And then he said, it means the rainmaker. I goes, young boss, it's the myth of the rainmaker. And he goes, what is it? He goes, well, the rainmaker comes, and when things get really hot, cools things down. He cools things down. And he said, I'm like, I don't understand. He said, well, young boss, you treat all the people equal. You treat them all the same. You are kind to everybody. When you come around, they stop fighting. You cool things down. And then you bring hope. And I remember Kristen looked at me and said, you're the rainmaker. So when I turned pro, and it was the sole purpose, moonlighting as a professional boxer while I'm working in medical device sales for Johnson & Johnson, I needed a name. And I was like, I am trying to create hope for those who are paralyzed. And that's where it started. But now my life it's been lots of different causes. It's wherever there's pain, let me come and try to be there. And when there's pain, you just being there helps. Just show up. Even if there's nothing you could do to stop their suffering that you can physically see, just show up and be there. I know you know what it feels like when you've been hurting and somebody showed up even though they couldn't stop, and how that helps affect what you're going through. So that's where the Rainmaker came from. And then I made a spoken word music album called Raindrops. So I played off of that idea. And if you think about it in life, when a raindrop would be a metaphor for an idea hitting you that like wakes you, holy, this is my purpose. And then sometimes it's a couple of raindrops, and they start triggering things. So wait, when I'm starting to notice certain things, maybe I'm interested in this, maybe this is a way. And then those one drop could create the storm of change. It could be multiple. And then other times, that's not the purpose of the raindrop. You ever have that thing that happens, or that person that comes that just makes you smile in that moment when you're down? When shit's really hot in life, and you're in pain, and you hear that voice, or that act of kindness, or that text, or that hug. So that's another form of a raindrop. And so that's how my mind works.
No, that's another great story.
I'm full of stories. I have no children of my own to tell stories to, so I'm telling you.
So let's hear a little bit about what you're currently working on, and what are your future plans.
Writing my thesis.
What's your thesis about?
Thank you for asking. Does the self-control developed through boxing training correlate with happiness in that person's life? Are they able to take this super high developed self-control so serotonin helps inhibit impulses? So can you activate that inhibitor. When you are exhausted, you have to make decisions after decisions after decisions while you're exhausted. And if you give in to this because you're that tired, instant pain, can you override that and still make decisions? If you can master that, imagine what you can do in your real life. So that's the study. I spoke to the dean at USC Rosier School. He said I'm a very strong candidate. That's Southern Cal. And hopefully it'll be next fall that I'll have time to start an educational doctorate in organizational change and leadership. And I'm excited for that.
Wonderful.
Thank you. I was able to earn during this master's also a certificate in topics in human behavior and equity, diversity, inclusion, and belongings leadership. And that's the academic side. I am now, the title is, I'm part owner and chief integration officer for our drink company named MYND Drinks. We are a hemp elixir wellness drink. We are a concoction of magnesium, potassium, and one single strand of hemp, of CBD from the hemp part. The hemp is down in the stalk. We have a certification called NSF Certified for Sport. Certified for Sport. You have to have that for what hemp falls under for NCAA athletes and professional athletes to be able to consume it and to be sold in their arenas. Because that proves there's zero THC. So there's an education part with that too. And the marijuana part that gets you high with the THC is in the bulb, not the stem. And so to break it down for you, if you're looking for my brain, but you go into my arm and you don't find my brain, you didn't find it in there because my brain's in my head. It's not in my arm. So that's why there's no THC in the stem. And that's how we get this certification, to prove there's zero. So we have orange, mango, lemon, ginger, elderberry, passion fruit. They're vegan, they're kosher, they're non-GMO, they're gluten-free, there's no added sugar. All three flavors are mixtures of juice concentrates with skin extract, with stevia, and with 25 milligrams of hemp. 25 milligrams of hemp clinically, if you look at NIH studies, I'm going to hit some of the endpoints that were studied and measured, reduces insomnia, depression, PTSD, chronic pain, anxiety. Did I say inflammation already?
No, not
inflammation, but that's really the key one. So I'm going to harp on, cardiac function, reduces nightmares, with children with autism, reduces the effects of autism. Our neuroprotectants that help protect against traumatic brain injury and chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, from Will Smith's concussion. They have antioxidants in them. And that helps the aging process to get rid of free radicals. And this is really the gestalt behind how this happens. Gestalt means the central focus. We have this natural endogenous, which means it's organic to inside of our body. I know you know this stuff. Endogenous cannabinoid receptor system throughout every part of our body. And these receptors, cannabinoid receptors, are utilized by our body autonomically when our stress increases, our cortisol increases. When your cortisol increases, your body releases its neurotransmitters that get sucked up by the receptors to calm you down, the inflammation. These cannabinoids that you take, such as hemp, that is their purpose, to calm your stress, to lower and decrease the cortisol. So when you can decrease, it helps you focus and it provides clarity. And when you decrease the natural inflammation from a whole day's life, is that right? A whole day's life? day's life, whatever's happening during that day, to include injury, to include nerve pain, everything else can come because inflammation is the cause of everything. For example, when you drink alcohol, the reason why you're sore the next day is because that's poison going in you that inflames you. So when you drink alcohol with this, what I've experienced, and I rarely drink, so I'm sensitive to alcohol, besides not being able to taste it, and I don't understand how that happens, you wake up like $1,000,000, and this is conceptually what's happening. This hasn't been studied. If alcohol causes inflammation, but the mixer you're putting in with it is the purpose, the mechanism of action is to decrease inflammation, it's giving you a buffer against that. And once this whole thing catches on and people start if that's the case, that you don't get a hangover. And we are partners with the Cubs and approved by Major League Baseball. We're partners with the Nets, Brooklyn Nets, approved by NBA. That's my favorite sport. We are partners with, we just had the contract come out with the World Boxing Council, WBC. We just have to work out the stuff for it. Just reached out to the Florida Panthers because they're owned by a West Pointer who has a tremendous heart named Vinny Viola. And the CEO of the Panthers graduated a year ahead of me at West Point, and the COO a few years after me, 5 years after. And we're beginning discussion to try to get it there. And what we are a shared value company. What does that mean? We give back to the people that consume. And since it's a mental health product, but you can't say that, the FDA has to say that. So I'm not saying officially but I'm saying it affects components of your mental health. And everything I listed before, anxiety, depression, PTSD, those are components of your mental health. I will say that this is a mind health, and the drink is called MYND, M-Y-N-D. So we know what that means. Our mind, our brain, our mind, there's a difference between anatomically your brain versus what you say by your mind, but this is a cool way to focus it on this for your mind health. And we're partners, so that affects everything. Mm-hmm. So it's every human alive. If your mental health experiences are eating you up, it's going to negatively predict everything in your life. So we're partnered with a nonprofit that they just asked me to also be an ambassador for them called Give an Hour. 5,000 mental health professionals that have each given at least an hour's worth of free mental health care time. They've given, I think, around $25 million worth of free mental health care so far. And then the nonprofit MVP, Merging Vets and Players. It's co-founded by my dear brother Nate Boyer, who is former Army Special Forces and a snapper for the Seattle Seahawks. They take veterans and current or retired professional athletes. It's called the Huddle. They cross-train with boxing and grappling, and then they sit around the mat and just talk through things. We're partners with them. We are a newer company. As we start generating revenue, it gets donated, and then whatever events they have, we provide free samples, and the more we earn, the more we're going to donate. Our vision, and I've spoken with the fellow leadership of the company, is to imagine Red Bull said, our mission is to improve the mental health care. I say Red Bull because the money they're a drink and the amount of money they have. So imagine Google said it, just a monster company with the financial means. And they said our entire objective is to positively affect the mental health of America. Well, right now, only 1/3 of black and brown complected American citizens have access to mental health care. If you don't have good mental health, everything takes the hit, especially your employment. Your family life and your employment, interpersonal relationships and employment. And if you're not employed, you don't have taxpayer dollars to go back to the country. By 2045, there are going to be more black and brown complected Americans, or rather, there are going to be less of this complected Americans than not. By 2045, And there's a racial equity gap in our country. You have households that are this complexion, joint households. The average income is around $250, give or take 20 or 30,000. And then for those that are black and brown, the average income for a joint household, I think, is in the 50s, maybe as high as 70s for average. What's going to happen in our country is that we are going to have a third world country. The minority of Americans are going to have the significant amount of income and wealth, and the minority will not. And they, in order for them to be able to buy the products off of them, they have to earn more. So it's going to create this. When you don't have enough, if your income is at that amount, it's probably because your employment is not paying you higher. And that type of employment probably doesn't have health care attached to it, which means you don't have mental health care access. Do you see how I connected that? This is very real. So all you have to do is think about jobs and think about how much they pay, and the type of jobs that don't come with health care benefits, how much they pay. Got it? So, in addition, if you're not approving home loans in certain communities, then you're not going to have the taxpayer dollars from those home loans to go into that community to provide civic services like good sanitation so we don't get sick. This isn't complicated, what I just put you through. Just think about it. If you don't get a good education, you're not going to get a good job, most likely. For the under the bell curve's worth. Part of a good job is healthcare benefits. You know what happens when you don't have healthcare benefits and you're trying to work. Eventually you increase the opportunity to not to be able to work. So that is what MYND's focus when we blow up, which we will blow up. Because we have a drink that tastes good. That's the first part I've learned. Hemp drinks do not taste good. How can we taste good? The chemist that worked on the whey protein diet and the Atkins diet spent 3 years getting our mixes right to get our thing tasting good. And we have this certification that finally allows athletes to be able to enjoy the recovery and wellness benefits that hemp affords. Lastly, Department of Defense members are not allowed to consume hemp products for the sole reason that hemp products have trace amounts of THC in them. So you can fail a urinalysis, and our Department of Defense members are not allowed to consume THC. Well, now we have a drink that's certified for 0 THC. So you only get the health benefits of the hemp. So we are in the works to try to have it amended by the Armed Forces Committee, where if you have a hemp product that's certified for 0 THC, it is allowed to be consumed by Department of Defense members. Since we're the only beverage in the world that has that, we are the hope there.
Oh, well, thank you for the explanation. It sounds
pleasure.
like a very great concept, and also the product, the drink is very helpful for everyone. So check that out.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for the interview. It was a pleasure to have you here, and thank you so much for doing what you are doing. Keep doing that. I hope you got a lot of value from this episode. Thank you for listening. I have included a link in the description below where you can get a free copy of my high performance ebooks to help you to take your performance to the next level. Until next time, take care.